Hey, John.
Hi
Sorry,
guys.
the meeting
Sorry.
notice didn't have a reminder, so I'm sitting here working away.
I'm sorry about
Good
that.
morning.
Okay, let me go share. Oh, just swap my screen later. Okay. Um, let's start the meeting. Yeah, I'll just share my entire screen. That makes life a bit easier. Okay. First thing to note, which is not obvious, is that I moved the wiki. So it used to be on some private site OCP had, and you had to use wiki syntax. And since we moved to GitHub, they're using the wiki on the GitHub. So I'm in the process of finishing the port, but enough of it's there that you can just now go directly to the wiki on the GitHub.
Would that also include moving the meeting minutes there?
Well, the meeting minutes are on a shared drive. Is on when you get um, a Google account on with OCP, you get a share, and
Uh-huh.
that's where I put all my agendas and stuff.
Okay.
And then
All
I
right.
just point to it from the wiki.
Okay.
So that's where this is. It's off on a Google Doc share, and they do that so that if I ever leave OCP, all the documents are still owned by OCP. I don't have a private share place.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It's just for me. My IT does not like Google Share, and I've had to open requests to get access to that. But if that's just OCP policy, I can still work with that.
Okay, well, that's almost yeah. It's the way everyone else does it, so that's the way I do it. So, um, if we're interested in putting it in the GitHub wiki, that we could talk about that. So, okay. So the pass downs are August 1st. Of course, we know about global summit. Elections are in process for project leads, all the top level project leads. All the project leads which only have one candidate, so candidates pass by acclamation, and so the hardware management project leads fall into that. So there will be no ballot for them. The ballots for project leads for I think 4 or 5 other projects. And hopefully you got a mail because anyone in the community can vote. So it's not per company, it's per member. Let's see what else. Oh, the SC Initiative Open System for AI is now a public meeting. That was decided on, I think, on the 3rd meeting that it's now a public meeting, and to notify everyone that it's just a steering committee. And it doesn't actually produce any work other than what the project leads are asked to provide. And that's basically a white paper or position paper on how they see op an open system for AI looking and what needs to be done in the system management portion, in the data center portion, and the IT portion of the data center. So then we're in the process of writing that. The steering committee hasn't seen it yet. They're still pushing for a draft. And then last is the contributions. So July, we missed meeting because it was the 4th. So both of these were contributions from the hardware management project, and no other people submitted anything yet. The interesting thing is that this is pretty uncommon for going up to Global Summit. And so this, I believe, there's going to be a raft of contributions right before the summit occurs. Okay, that's that. So, which takes us down to pull requests. So the only comment I have for GPU management is that it's posted. It won't get updated until version 1.0 comes out from the CLA group. And so, Mike, you want to talk about anything to talk about with your pull request?
Yeah, just two changes since the last time we reviewed it. So I have an outstanding comment about whether or not filters are truly required. I talked to Mick about this, and he agreed that we shouldn't be stipulating a hardware requirement like that. So we loosened the terms for filters to if implemented. The other thing, which is more significant, is I tossed in a proposal for a rear door heat exchanger profile that builds on the liquid cooling profile in there.
Okay.
The good news is with the rear door heat exchanger is effectively a stripped down CDU. It already had the fans covered in the baseline profile, and it's just changing over references from CDU to heat exchanger within the rear door heat exchanger profile.
Okay, so at this point, it's go ahead 2 profiles or is the target 3? So there's the CDU, there's rear door heat exchanger. Is that going to be it, or are you going to add?
There's also the liquid cooling baseline. I do expect there would be at least, I think, there may be 1 or 2 other profiles that build on the liquid cooling baseline in the future, but not imminently.
Okay. So there's and then there's a CDU. And I'll just reorder this later. Post it. Post it. Post it. Okay. Component baseline. I haven't sat down and extracted the looked at the baseline and figured out if it's a logical subset of the GPU profile. So I haven't made that split out yet, but I will go ahead and do that later, later this month. Jeff, Redfish service baseline.
Yeah, Mike and I had put some feedback in there, and certainly it's as far as I know, it's ready for wider folks to look at, and I mean I think this is going to be one of the few that hardware management actually builds and owns and approves, right? Because that's the point. These are the management requirements.
Okay, so right now is it ready to be merged so we can get wider review of it?
Let's see. I think we already.
Did we merge it already?
Oh, yes, we already merged that one. I do have a. Is that fix? I have
It
a.
doesn't. It doesn't have. It doesn't address the issue that I raised, or rather the issues that I raised in that one issue.
Yeah, correct. I haven't. Yeah. You're right, Mike. I haven't gotten to those. But did I respond in your issue? Because I think it was this all is reasonable.
If not in the issue, I think you reply to me on the side at least.
Okay. I hope I would put it in the issue. Just say like.
So is there an issue posted on this?
He got issue 80.
Yeah, there's an issue in GitHub.
Oh, I didn't reply, Mike.
Okay,
Hey, Jeff, this is Donald. As this starts getting farther out and getting more concrete, is there anything I can do to help out with that?
get folks to review, especially in the non-server space, because that's this is, I think, one of the areas that is I think is the biggest concern for this profile is what's in here is a non-trivial amount of management functionality. I don't think we're asking, we're not asking folks to create a bunch of new work, but it is a
Well, I would say the two items in there that could be a functional hurdle for non-servers would be the update service and the event service requirements. Those are both mandatory in this profile.
yeah, events are, I mean, the update service and user accounts and other things like that are all functions that the devices will have.
Well, I don't know about update service, because I even talking to some folks, I get a bit of pushback on that.
No, but Mike, this day and age, I think we can assume that everybody has a updatable firmware or updatable via the network if it's got a network connection.
I'd say I don't think you can do that.
I would think that too, but some of the but there has been pushback on that ask from various products.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd be cautious about it.
Okay.
I agree with the intent, because in this day and age, I think it is very reasonable for people to update their firmware over a programmatic interface, but be careful about that assertion.
I was going to say, I would just say that I have had some discussions about that because of the product that I support for Vertiv, and I would kind of agree with Mike on that there's still some concern in some of the groups. So,
okay.
Yeah,
well,
I think some of the other baseline functions, like doing your account management, your session management, managing the network interfaces on the controller that you're putting on the network, getting the logs out, I think those are all pretty reasonable for other classes of product. It's when you start getting to more the higher order functions like updates and eventing, that's where people start to scream.
Yeah, for eventing, should we back it down to maybe if you don't, as we talked about, like SNMP support via Redfish was well, hey, if your product doesn't do Redfish style eventing, maybe that's still okay by baseline, but I need to be able to configure your eventing whatever the protocol is. So you at least get us to a baseline of I can configure the product via Redfish, if not use it solely for management, which we know that's we know that's not going to happen.
So Jeff,
for example,
so Jeff, I'm kind of the opinion that, let's at least set the bar high enough that people will really try to scrutinize it and see if they're willing to accommodate it, and if not, then we can loosen requirements as feedback comes in.
Yeah, and I think that's where yes, and that's what I tried to do. So I mean we can certainly back down the requirements on update service to basically make that stuff recommended, and then things like server, a server profile could strengthen those, right? To make say that you have to be able to do update these things by and have the two different methods, et cetera. So we could
Well, so, we can divide it between the workflow,
yes,
or workload side of the data center and the DSIM side of the data center, right? That if you got a server or storage or a switch, right, you have to have updatable firmware. And the DSIM side says, well, they don't quite all have it yet, so we can't really make those mandatory.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would at least like to convey that direction and try to make it required, because it is something end users ask for.
Right. So in pushing out this profile and getting eyes on it, right, are those the two large domains within data center that we want to go talk to?
Yes, those two areas in that profile, because everything else that looks like it's a lot of extra functionality are already marked as recommended. So they could ignore all the other items like third-party authorization, outbound connections. I don't know what else was in there. Yeah, there's a lot of other extraneous manageability capabilities that are all marked as recommended. So it at least sets the tone of these are things you should look for, because maybe they will be elevated to required in 5 years. But for now, you're fine not implementing them.
Okay, so are the representatives that we have in this group sufficient, or should I take it to one of the project leads, right, and say, data center facilities, and say, hey, we're going to go do this. Do these people speak for you, or do you want to go assign start some work within your project to provide this direct feedback?
I think we at least need to directly ask the power and cooling groups. I think other groups, they're already well versed in this enough.
Okay, so this is Ask Rack and Power and cooling rights. Okay, and go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say I did finally get a chance to run this profile against a couple of our Redfish enabled products but still on the IT side. So it's not like I was running against a UPS or something like that, where it's sort of maybe a lot more difficult to meet the requirements. But everything for the most part looked pretty reasonable to me. That there were two things that I was kind of scratching my head at that seemed like maybe it wasn't necessarily required, but was marked as mandatory. That was the network supplied servers and manager network protocol. I thought that was kind of a little bit extra, if it beyond the NTP servers array. I could see that just
Yeah,
being implemented on a lot of stuff.
yeah, I agree. That's probably not correct, and that may be an issue with the profile itself. Jeff, this
Sorry, is this is it managed network?
So, so
Yeah.
yeah, Jeff, I think this is an issue where if you call out an object as required, but you don't specify the properties in that object, it elevates all of those properties to required, which is a bit of an overstretch.
Oh yeah, I agree. Which property was it? Which object?
Network
NT
supplied servers.
Well, yeah, this was NTP servers and manager network protocol. So one of the subordinate properties is manager supplied servers. That's right.
Okay. So is that two level? Is there 2 levels deep in that object? Is that what it is?
Not 2 levels.
NTP. I've got network supplied servers and NTP.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, network supplied servers. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one that we don't.
That's the one that we probably don't need as required.
Okay.
Is that actually called out in the profile as required?
Yes, but I think I copied that from something else that we had done.
You probably copied it from the schema document and just said all these properties. Yeah, these all look good, and so you just copy them all in.
Probably so, not knowing enough about NTP to know what parts of those. The rest of them look like you need them. Port and servers and protocol enabled.
Yeah,
Okay.
the network provided servers, that was meant to let a system show these are the ones my DNS server gave me or my DHCP server gave me.
Okay. Should we just
I would just mark that as recommended.
or just remove it? I mean, is there a
Yeah, you could
It's not a-
remove it. I mean, for baseline functionality, a user really just needs to be able to turn on NTP and set up which servers they want to use. If
Right.
if the BMC or the manager supports pulling that dynamically and not relying on user data, then you don't need to service it. They can if they want to.
Yeah, I mean, is that
Yeah.
Luke, is that useful for for debugging, for users debugging the configuration, or is this kind of nice to have data?
I feel like it's nice to have data.
I'd say we just remove it for this. Don't even mark it as I kind of want to reserve recommended for, this is stuff you really should be working on. And it's also very likely that when we do another version of this, that we're going to make these mandatory. Okay, I'll
And
just,
then, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so the other one that stuck out to me, and this one might just be my potential misunderstanding, but there were a mandatory date time local offsets for all of the log services. Our implementations are just using date time, which my understanding includes the local offset as well. So it seems like local offset is sort of extraneous information that then further, it breaks apart that part of the date time property, but maybe that's my misunderstanding of the intention of that property.
the
intention is to allow a user to set the time zone without having to do a potential read modified write and calculate the drift of the clock due to network delays when they're patching date time.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, that's the intent from many years ago of discussing it. So I could be misremembering, but I vaguely remember it's to accommodate.
But is that mandatory?
But
Well, that's in the profile. The profile is making it mandatory. Luke's question is, does it really need to be mandatory?
yeah, and also, I mean, is that something writable for each log service? I mean, or is
it could be. I've seen implementations where the log service date time is identical to the manager date time, and you can only change the date time through the manager representation and not on the log service.
That's exactly how we do it.
Yeah. Is there a requirement right now to make date time offsets writable, or rather date time and date time offset in log service writable?
Yeah, our devices failed that on the profile.
Well, I mean, does the profile call that as writable? I don't.
It does.
I don't know that specifically.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. It's
in log service.
It's just marked as mandatory read.
Okay.
So
marked as recommended in manager for write.
Yeah, so we just have the date time, which includes the offset, the time zone offset as read only in the log service, and then in manager, both of them are there, and there's the writable stuff implemented.
Okay, yeah. So in log service, it's date time local offset is marked as a mandatory property. So if that's the one, if we want to say that hey, if you need to be setting that up, do it in one place in manager, and then the reporting of that separate offset in log service, that we could maybe make that recommended.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So have I captured this correctly?
uh,
So I think the first question is we have a number of, should this be mandatory, the ability to update firmware? The second one, I kind of lost the thread of, is it the ability to adjust time for time drift?
Well, I think the issue Luke had is that he has a read-only timestamp in log service, and so having the offset is extraneous.
Yeah.
And he has both in manager, and it's writable, and that does accommodate the drifting issue. So I think the question is, if you have a read-only timestamp for log service, or rather a read-only date time configuration for log service, do you really need to show the offset property? And I think we came to the conclusion that no, you don't, but let's make it recommended at least.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Okay, so this is a question we don't have to ask him because we've decided it's going to be.
Yeah, we just worked this one out.
All right, fine.
The other one for the rack and power and the cooling environment groups would be about the update service, not the update, the event service, because I think there are implications about going beyond SNMP and mandate redfish eventing.
Do this right. So those are the two questions, right? Whether these should be mandatory or not.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I want to reduce it to not talk about update service because that requires understanding the model. I much rather go look at the usage document and say, does ability to update firmware, should that be mandatory or recommended? So I was gonna ask Jeff, is there a usage guide for this?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. And hopefully they have these two entries in it.
About firmware and events, it should.
Okay, if it doesn't, because that's what I'll do. I'll just pick up the document, right, and say, here's the table of all the things it can do, and we have questions about these two entries, right? Should we?
I mean,
I mean, that to me, that's the use of the user's guide, is that I don't have to talk about the rest of the model.
let me see if I have that. Yes, event delivery and yes, and firmware updates are listed in the use cases.
Great, yeah, that makes it so much easier. Okay. Okay, next is server management profile. I have not had time at all to take a look at that, which brings us back to Jeff.
Hello.
Sustainability. We approved it, right?
It's merged and it's going through, review with the sustainability folks. And I think they're trying to figure out how to, what does approval mean on their end, right? Because, and what specs will it show up in? And so I'm working with them to try to get to a, version 1 of this, because there's also, the other work streams that are creating new efficiency metrics for sustainability, power efficiency metrics. We want to have that stuff in the profile as well, but obviously that's a chicken and egg issue. So not can't go create new stuff if they haven't defined it that we can point to. So I'm trying to make sure that they're not that's a version 2 thing. Let's finish version 1. We can do these in parallel, but we do need to close on the first one.
Okay, and which work stream within sustainability?
So there are 2. There is the data center efficiency metrics and the what's the other name? The names all overlap.
Okay.
Power telemetry.
Okay. Oh, I should have put baseline. Oh, yeah, I don't have it here. Okay, so the last one was actually the updated baseline 1.1, is that we've merged it, we've approved it. At some point, we need to ask the hardware management project to make it official and move it out of draft into. Wait a minute, see if I've done that. I think I've done that already. Yeah, baseline. 1, 1, 1, 0. Yeah, so we're 1, 0, we have 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, which is the errata update. And then we still have baseline within hardware management, but not promoted to release. So I need the project leads for hardware management to make the official elevation promotion. Because then we can go out and tell people, all right, all your specs are pointing to version 1.0 or you know, or it's errata, right? You now can point to version 1.1, and this is how you know, this is the entry you would make in your spec.
So John, is that, do we just
So
need to have that as a topic on the next call to say?
exactly. Right. This is the first time we've ever
I know.
swapped out. So I'm making this up as I go along and not burning one's feet. So I think we have to officially make it, and then we can go on the promotion to other bodies or send a mail that we have officially done this. And this is to resolve these changes, like power subsystem that everyone is asking for, and a server you can go link to 1.1. So that's the process I'm going to follow. Anyone have an issue with that? All right, then at the next hardware management, I'll ask for its promotion.
Very good.
All right, which takes us to issues. Got lots of issues this week, so I don't know if we have time to go through them all in 30 minutes.
Well, several of them should be easy because I've already fixed them.
You want to go through them?
Yeah, so I was running, I think it was between JSON schema validator, which, by the way, both of those online JSON schema validators work now. So they will catch problems in profiles.
But maybe not next week.
Yeah. So yeah, so I found a problem in mine, and then I'm like, oh, I think Mike's PowerShell probably has the same thing, and it did. So if implemented is not a valid value for write requirement, and looking back at the specs, like, yeah, it's unnecessary because the spec says you first must pass the read requirement, and then write requirement is applied. So you just mark write, if you need it to be writable, if present, then you just mark the write requirement as mandatory. The read requirement can say if implemented. And so what that says is, well, if you have this property, we want you to have this property. If you implement it, then it has to be writable. So that's how the language works. And so it's just a matter of swapping the if implemented values, which are not valid, for mandatory.
Can we fix the spec?
You
I
can.
don't like my name. I don't like my name being turned.
Yeah, in hindsight, it's the clarity of that is, okay.
So we should just go look at the fix for this and improve the fix.
Yes, and I've got there's two issues that are fixed by this poll. So yeah, and they're both trivial. So one of the things I did while I was here, since I already had a poll open, was in the postscript for the couple of my profiles, I've added paragraphs that describe the process for creating the use case document. So because the files all exist in here, but like there's nowhere else to point to them to say this is how the file gets constructed or how the output gets constructed. So you'll see the same two paragraphs there in both of the 2 or the 3 of the profiles I have. Oh yeah, I did it in the other one's in a separate poll because it's creating the new power the PEU profile. So that's that. And then if you scroll down, unless you're still reading.
Okay. Wait a minute. So this document.
So you'll see the same text twice because this is in the source that gets fed to the documentation generator that produces the use case document.
Okay. So this just says this is a quote computer generated document. So
Correct.
go fix the schema if you want to fix anything.
Well, yeah, and that
All
was
right.
our second paragraph is there is yeah, please don't make changes to the output because it gets lost. You need to make the changes in the source file. So
And where's
and so yeah, that's just the output file. So that's just showing that gets incorporated. That's what you'll see if you expand it, but don't bother. Um, so this is one of the two issues that I opened. One was I didn't have the file naming proper for the profile files themselves. They are supposed to have the version number. So I fixed that.
okay.
And then here you'll see the issue we just discussed, which is just moving the all instances of if implemented in write requirement to make that write requirement mandatory.
Okay.
And then the same change for that, same paragraph with the file names fixed, and then same thing with the file naming in the sustainability one.
Okay. So when this points to the schema that needs to be changed, that schema is the Redfish schema.
No, that is
Oh,
configuration file that tells the doc generator how to assemble everything.
okay. And that configuration file is in here?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah, and John, this is and we should probably have a larger discussion about the use case documents themselves. I've been doing all of my use case ones using the DMTF's documentation generator, and then having all the explanatory text is obviously is an input to that,
Mhm.
because the resulting thing looks like one of our guide documents where you get the use cases up front, and then all of the then the schemas are just included there. So it becomes a single document to hand to somebody for this profile.
Okay.
Um,
So this is more a presentation on how the heck did Jeff do this?
well, yeah, it's trying to leave the breadcrumbs in the final document to say, hey, if you're trying to edit this, this is what you need to collect up. So the discussion I think we also need to have is because the generator has input files and config files, where do we want to leave those in the repository? Right now they're in the hardware management, they're in whatever subfolder
Mhm.
lines with the program. And I think that's fine unless we want to make another, do we want to put a support or, some other folder underneath these to stash them away so that, so it's
I'd imagine at some point you might want to use a GitHub action to automatically make these, and so you might just have a build directory with all those config files, or just a config directory. I don't know.
That's an interesting thought, Mike, because yeah, we certainly could have it just go execute the doc generator and then whatever our publication process is to get the PDFs out, right? That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need a overall presentation on the process you're using, because I don't use this process.
Well, I would like
I just hack Markdown.
I would
If you can improve that process, that'd be great.
But yeah, don't you just want to press a button, go get a cup of coffee, and have a document
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So which is why I anxiously would like this presentation. So you want to set that up for next meeting then?
Yeah, we can walk through that process next meeting.
Okay. So for now, we accept and approve.
Please.
Anyone have an issue approving this pull request?
Mike likes conformance.
Yes. Is it easy?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay. I guess I can do the merge now. Done. Which one? Which other one have you got? Oh my.
Yeah, we've already seen that one, John. Or well, well, I guess well, maybe we didn't go through here, but I've seen it, and everything Mike's talking about there is stuff I do need to fix. Like, I don't have any issues with it.
Oh, and you're already assigned, so we don't have to talk about this.
Yeah.
As long as you agree to everything on here, then I guess we don't have to talk about it. Did we talk about conditional requirements for the Ethernet interface?
No, we haven't talked about that one.
'Cause
Nope.
I think this came up originally on the interop validator tool, and I pointed out, no, this is a requirement for your service. I guess they're implementing a read-only Ethernet interface for their host NIC. Not their host NIC, but the host interface NIC between their BMC and their host.
As in, you can't, meaning it's you can't change the configuration.
Yeah, you can't change the address of the BMC on it.
Okay. So we've got right requirement is mandatory. Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's okay. The important part of that was that you gotta show your host name. If you're the manager Ethernet.
Well, in this case, they're calling it host name, but I think it's their entire resources read only. I agree that we can probably remove the right requirement for host name, but we're gonna have the same question for other properties in that resource.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually do something similar with our USB NIC interface. It's not for a BMC, but it's a similar type of use case for like first time setup. You actually don't want it to be something dynamic. You want it all factory units to come up with the same thing for first time setup purposes where you may not know the IP address.
But you don't let a user configure it after the fact?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one because one, how do we detect this interface is that type of interface?
Yeah.
Technically here we can key it. Well, Jeff will strangle me, but keying off of USB in the name is not a not a good thing to go by.
Yeah. So, well, so I guess I want to divide this into two things. So first, for the baseline hardware, maybe we just maybe we just need to relax all the right requirements in Ethernet to get through this, because I don't want to start because I'm assuming we're gonna that we're gonna replace this one with the service baseline, and because I'm thinking that maybe we handle this with a use case where we could do another the manager Ethernet and then use some other detection there to make some conditionals.
Well, this is all under manager.
Right. So is there
but I think from an Ethernet interface perspective on manager, we still need interfaces to be configurable. Now I know that this particular one isn't, and maybe that's okay, but
right, so, yeah, so
how do we enforce that the external interfaces on your device are configurable?
Yeah, and that's why I'm suggesting because we have a use case for Ethernet interface to differentiate between just host NICs and manager NICs in the profile. So since we have that distinction already made, then we can do something else to make it conditional, or we can mark a lot of that as just supported. Although I don't think
that's true.
Requirements.
Yeah, basically you need to have at least one interface as configurable.
Yeah.
I could buy that. That would work because I still go back to the, well, how do you detect this is one of those special interfaces? And there's really nothing in the payload that indicates it unless you
Well,
know based on the name.
I'd like us to find a way, because how does the poor user do it? Because matching names is not the answer.
No, it's like a Boolean property is special interface. Don't touch me.
Yeah. So, I will ask the question because I'm not as deep in the history of this. Why are we needing to remotely configure the interface that we talk to in such a way that we can knock it offline and then can't talk to it anymore?
I think that's
Sorry.
all network configuration. It's not unique to
I,
Red, but
I
I,
just
I mean, usually some of the cases I see is, hey, I'm going to go set this to DHCP mode. I know it's at a static address, and then once I set it to DHCP, I then now need to go find the new address that was assigned. Sometimes it's the other way, where you say, okay, I know I have my manager here. It got a DHCP address, but I need to give it a static address. So once I configure its static address, I then change the address I use.
Yeah.
And in a lot of other cases, it's just simply, hey, I have multiple ports on this guy, and I need to configure each of them, and I'm just going to leave the one I'm connected to alone.
Okay, no problem. It's just my tester brain immediately
oh yeah,
figuring out how I can take the entire thing down.
Oh yeah, it's certainly destructive if you don't know what you're doing, but people need to configure their networking.
That's why they pay network guys a lot of money.
yes.
So, do we know how we want to solve this?
I'm looking now just to see, but I mean, we do have Ethernet interface type, but that's got physical and virtual.
Yeah, because that's to distinguish between, well, yeah, like virtual NICs.
Right,
It's
right.
not.
Yeah, I'm looking for
We don't have type at the level they're looking at here. I mean, we do have the
that.
link to the host interface resource. We could key off that, but that doesn't help. But that doesn't help Luke's case, where his isn't a host interface. It's just a special manufacturing NIC with a well-known address.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we add another thing to the Ethernet interface type of, fixed something.
I mean, that
Logical, physical, and fixed function, or make up another name.
yeah, it's kind of ugly. I was hoping to solve this just in the profile. It is possible we may be pushed down that way, but so John,
Or it's a use case type, right? I mean, could do that where it's like, oh, it's not the host, it's not a host interface one, and then the tool could
yeah,
go
but
change.
that still doesn't solve Luke's issue, which
No,
is why which is why I kind of go back to supported.
mhm.
Because as long as at least one is configurable, then I guess you can kind of assume that the other non-configurable ones are fixed for a reason that the manufacturer needs it that way. Did we just lose John?
We just lost John's screen, but
Yeah, I still see him on.
yeah, he's coming back. There he is.
I'd say for the sake of getting through other issues, we could say we acknowledge this is an issue and it seems like a valid use case. But we don't have a solution right now.
Yeah, but it seems like we're gonna have to just loosen the requirements. I say that because I don't want to go do major surgery on on that old profile if rather work on the new one.
And I think supported might be a good answer for that. So that way it avoids major surgery, and I think it is the most accommodating.
And John, just in the interest of time, just I do have a new poll to discuss, especially since we've got PDU folks on the phone here. And John, you're on mute if you're talking.
Thanks. So yeah, there was one additional kind of topic I wanted was to
Okay.
figure out what we're going to do for the profile session at
Oh, yes.
OCP Summit. So are we going to try to make any room outside that, or are we going to have to? Well, currently I'm going to plan for all 4 of us to be up there and 3 of us speak because we can only have 3 speakers. And we'll have a floating mic. So we'll deal with sustainability, CDU, and OpenRMC update.
If I'm floating, doesn't that solve the problem?
He's not on the stage if he's just floating above it. Is that the?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Basically, it gives us about 5 minutes per topic with very little time for Q&A. It's kind of like, what do you want to talk about? We've got 20 minutes for profiles, right? So I'm going to talk a little about the subclassing of profiles that we have now, kind of the diagram, and then I'm going to point out to.
I think it's the talk about the subclassing, in maybe a quick recap of what's the purpose here, what are this for, and then the hey, we need the other projects to put them in specifications so that they have teeth. And then maybe it's probably then a quick survey of here are the areas of here's the profiles that are available for you to go build off of. Please go use these.
Right. And so I like to highlight the profiles that we're working with other projects with, right? So
yes,
sustainability, the CDU, and OpenRMC, because that's connected to initiative. And that's I think that's all we have time for. Agreed?
If we get to the other poll, then we could add we could add rack and power with the PDU profile.
Okay, all right. That's okay. Then I know how to go create my slides. So did you want talk about this other poll that you brought up?
Yeah.
Okay. It's all yours.
Oh, you're gonna make me do it? Okay.
I thought I asked you, did you want to talk about it? And you said yes.
I want to talk about it. You want me to share, or you want to just click over to it?
Oh, it's
We
actually
only got 5 minutes. We're not going to go through it in detail. So,
is it up here?
it's a poll. You're in the issues.
Oh, you're gonna ask me how I do a poll. It's this guy.
Yep. Yeah, and I tried to do the thing right so it would pass, but I used my OCP email address in the sign off instead of the one that my GitHub is attached to. So, anyway, if you just click over the files change, John, so this is a profile for a rack-based PDU. And I have actually tested this against a couple existing products from a couple vendors that have Redfish interfaces. And they don't pass, but it's but looking at okay, well, what would you have to do to get there? Trying not to trying not to go start making hardware requirements. So I think I've got a pretty good handle on that now. And but there's still maybe some spots here, depending on implementations, because things that I assumed would be there from a monitoring standpoint, it was not necessarily the case. Meaning, hey, I figured if you had a monitored, outlet, that meant you would have, voltage, current, and power. And we're gonna push for energy because that's the sustainability guys really need that. But finding that some PDUs, have monitoring at circuit levels and outlet levels, and those may be different. So you may have current, but not voltage at, at certain places, and then, maybe voltage and not current. So trying to make sure that what we're putting in as mandatory was a reasonable thing. And also just, I think the question for the profile will be, well, and I tried to make it for a, if these are monitored and switched outlets, all these, I know folks have various SKUs that have, bundles of functionality. And so want to make sure that the profile can fit, anything that's a managed product. And then if we need to divide up more use cases to say, okay, this one has, switching capabilities as opposed to just monitoring. I think I have that handled now because the switching functions are handled by actions. So those actions are just marked as recommended. So it won't, you won't fail that if you don't have those. But anyway, so and yeah, since we have folks from Vertiv on the phone, and Donald, I don't know which of you is on the power side, but would really like you guys to go run those against the product, because yours was not one that I had sitting around in my lab. So
Okay. So yeah, so I'm on the KVM serial management group. So, but I will I'll look at this and I'll reach out and I'll see if I can get access to people from our power group to take a look at it.
right.
So yeah, so this is the type of stuff that I wanted to help with was, when I did my introduction, there was a comment about how we're one of the few companies that understand both sides of writing an API and some of this hardware stuff.
Yes.
And so that's definitely the place where I want to help try to get these put in a reasonable way.
And also both both on the API, both consumer and producers of all this data. So
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So John, so yeah, my hope is we merge this so that it's available in master, as we've done the other ones. And that makes it easier for the for Donald's folks to go find it.
Okay, so this is under draft. Oh yeah, it's a draft.
Yeah, it's under Rack and Power.
Jeff, how consistent is that with the PowerShell profile? Are there things that need to be cross-pollinated to make sure they're well aligned?
I looked through it, Mike, and I think it's pretty aligned. There was stuff that I mean, most of the work here was is in the outlet pieces, and obviously that isn't in the PowerShell profile. I did go align what I was doing in circuit to try to make sure, but so I think there's consistency there. Yeah, and I made some changes to get there. And again, this is definitely one that I want, looking for a if you've got a PDU with Redfish support on it, I would like you to pass this without much without much hurdles.
Yeah, I guess all I'd ask is if there are things you think that need to be added to the PowerShell profile based on what you did here, then but please do that. Or at least let me know.
Yeah, I didn't see anything because I think some of the functionality that I would like to see, the recommended things on the PDU still won't apply. But yeah, but I'll look again, Mike. It was there was too many moving pieces on this to try to get to.
Okay, we are merged.
Great, thank you, John.
Okay, and with that, we have reached the top of the hour, guys.
Great.
So thank you for attending this special meeting.
Yeah.
about Workstream. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. See y'all.
All right. Talk to you later.